All right, so we are going to get started. Hopefully you're all here because you kind of want to learn about how to stop stress eating. Don't know if you all know this, but it is National Emotional Eating Awareness Month, which is why Eileen picked we would do stress eating. So I'm Carol Ricard. Nice to meet you. Just quick, what do y'all want to walk out the door with? Anybody come walking in? Anything special you want to make sure you leave with?
How to tell myself that what I'm eating is not good for me. And I'm not. Because I get so angry, damn it.
Yeah.
I know, I'm like eating an apple, really angry, like I don't want to eat this.
Well, good. Well, I think when we get done, you'll have a plan of attack. How's that? So, all right, then let me turn this little baby on and we will get started. I love coming here because I don't stand in the way. You know, some places where I present, it's like, oh, I have no place to I got to hide. And so, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. So I'm only going to give you. No, I'm good, thank you. 2 keys to success. That's what I'm going to give you. Keep it simple. So my first question for you all is, raise your hands if you know that too much stress is bad for your health. All right, good. We're not going to talk about that at all tonight, okay? Let me put that out there, because you all are smart enough. I'm not going to tell you what you already know. But here's my question for you. What if I could show you how to reduce stress in just 60 seconds? Sound pretty good? Okay. So that's my promise, all right? You will walk out the door being able to do that. The other thing you're going to walk out the door being able to do, though, is to be able to kind of differentiate how to tell what hunger it is that you're feeling, all right? But I need a volunteer. Oh, wait a second. What happened to okay. I switched them around, y'all, because I was like, oh, this is much better. So she saw me 6 years ago. I have a much better slide now. So, yeah. So the thing will be is, why would you listen to me? And hopefully is, I've spent 27 years working in hospitals, teaching stress management and coping skills. And my dream was always to catch people before. So the writing the books part is honestly the easy part, because it's what I did for 27 years. What I'm going to talk about with you guys tonight is going to come from these two. Now, I can't say this as an advertisement, but Eileen let me bring some copies with me, all right? And $5 from every copy goes to the library. So I like using my books as a fundraiser. So, and I actually was, because of my expertise, I kind of been in some magazines recently. My Women's World was the coolest thing. But here's why I want you to listen to me, because I live what I teach. I'm not going to tell you all anything that I don't put into practice myself, all right? And so that's how I know this works. Come on in. You want to pull? Yeah, you're in the right spot. So just pass that back to her so she doesn't miss out on the thing. So everything I tell you tonight is, I know because I live it, all right? So I want to ask you to think about, what's the impact? So if it's stress eating, or does stress have some other impact on you guys? For me, it was migraines. When I wasn't stress eating, I was having migraines. Anybody have any what I call stress bullseyes? That's the thing that stress goes after with you. So for me, it's migraines. If you're diabetic, it could be your diabetes levels, your sugar levels. If you have high blood pressure, stress targets us. And I call them bullseyes because that's what you'll notice happens. And honestly, it could be eating. That just could be the bullseye that you all have, if that makes sense. So here's where I need a volunteer. I need 2 people. So I'll put 1 bottle. Shake this up. Here's what I want you to do. And we'll start with the students up here. I want you to anybody have a stressful day that you just kind of need to put some, anybody back here want? You're not going to open it. You just got to shake it. Just shake it. All right. Good thing you're doing a good job. Okay, put it right there. We're going to come back to these in a little bit. All right? Don't worry. I promise not to ruin your beautiful computers. So, but I want everybody to check your cards that I gave you. And who has an ace? Anybody have ace? You win. I will show you how to use this later. All right? It has my, no, that's the one law. You can't use it on anybody. But here is your first stress tool, is that in life, you don't get to control the cards you're dealt. And I didn't come up with this, Parents Anonymous did, and I thought it was a great idea, so I stole it. But I want you to put it on your refrigerator, because you don't get to control what shows up in your day. So some stress you can control, some stress you can't stop. And I think it was a great tool just to remind us that sometimes we got to play the best cards, just play them out the best that we can. And for me, I've been dealt some cards in my life. One of the ones I was dealt 27 years ago was I had been suffering for 2 years, went to work in a psychiatric hospital, and finally figured out that it was major depression that I'd been suffering from for 2 years. And so I'm a person living well today with a mental, I don't like the word illness, I'll say mental health condition, because we don't say physical illness, you say high blood pressure, diabetes, so, you know. But I didn't want the card then, but guess what? I wouldn't hand it back now, because some of our cards have helped us be who we are today, and some important qualities about that. So the first key I want to tell you, remember I told you there's just two, keep it really simple here, is this. Raise your hands if you've ever taken one of these, a knife, and used it as one of those, a screwdriver. Yeah. How'd it work? Yeah, it does work. Well, guess what? You all are in the right place then, because you've been using the wrong tools. Now, normally what I say is I put together two hammocks, one with a knife and one with a screwdriver. Which one do you want to lay in? Right? Because if you lay in the one with the knife, you all will have a broken arm by the time you get done. And what about this? One last idea. How many things you use duct tape for in your lives? A lot, right? A lot. I know there's 1,001 ways. Well, here's some of mine. I always kept it rolled in my desk at the hospital. It makes a great lint brush, better than the rolly things you buy at the store, all right? Stickier. And when I was in college, it was my radiator fix for 2 months until I could, save up enough money to actually buy it. But the knife and the duct tape, and here's the most wonderful thing. Duct tape isn't boring gray anymore, right? It's like they got all these magnificent colors. But those are examples of what I call quick fixes. They're things that you grab at to just get through the moment. My other word for them is survival tools. That you grab at them just to survive the moment, until you can, all right, let me just do this and go on. And the thing about it is, you're right, they kind of do the job, but it's temporary. And just like we can have survival tools for stress, for physical things, we also use survival tools for stress and emotional things in our lives. And I want to share two examples with you. The first one is mine. And this was the first food thing. The problem is, I was only 14 years old at the time. And what had happened was, I overheard a conversation and figured out that my dad, who you see a picture of here, was dying. Now, I grew up in one of those families where we didn't talk about things. Anybody else grow up in one of those families? Nobody ever, ever, ever even mentioned to my brother and I that my dad was sick. Like, it was never talked about. I just happened to overhear a conversation. So guess what I didn't do? I didn't tell anybody, right? Because I was taught, don't talk. Instead, I started stealing a lot of alcohol from my parents. And we had a lot because we'd had a bar and a restaurant we had to sell. Now I knew why we had to sell it. But the amazing part was, I hated the taste of alcohol. I really did. I hated it. But it was my survival tool. I was really lucky because basketball rolled around and the end of the year rolled around and I won an award and my life changed in a split second, because when I won that award, I thought to myself, one, maybe I could be good at this because I was the most improved player on the varsity team as a freshman. And two, maybe I could use this to go to college, because the very month before, my dad had actually died. And I was already thinking out to my senior year, well, how am I going to pay for college? So I was lucky, and that basketball became my life tool. Now, I want you all to think back to when you were growing up. What were things that you used to love to do? because those were your tools. And just because you could be older doesn't mean that you can't. Now, I tried to join a women's league in Somerville, but instead I just have a basket, you know, and I can go out and I can shoot. I've had people that coached because they couldn't play a sport any longer, so you know what they did? They were involved in coaching little ones that way. But those are some of your best life tools, are those things that you used to love to do, you know, whether it was an instrument or what, and life gets busy, it kind of gets in the way and you lose kind of like sight of those things. My background is 27 years in behavioral health, so I've worked with many people who've gotten into their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s and still had their old survival tools as their only tools. And so if that makes sense, and food is a survival tool. And the other person I want to share with you is Oprah. I don't know if anybody watched it the day she pulled her wagon across her stage, you know, with all that weight she lost. And Oprah did this. And what I loved about Oprah was that she was very public about her battle with her weight. But Oprah had success when she realized and acknowledged that she used food as her tool. Those potato chips that she would eat, that whole bag. And it goes back to when she grew up. It was just like the alcohol for me when I was a young girl. For her, and the abuse that she experienced in her life, food was the tool. It was her survival tool, if that makes sense. And so I think it's really important because to me, there's no shame in survival tools. And you get to decide whether or not they're still working for you. I never told a patient in 27 years what to do because they know them. All I do is say, well, ask you as if it's working, you know, and y'all wouldn't be here tonight if you didn't want to change something, right? I mean, you could be just as easily somewhere else. Now, for me, personally, professionally, it's been swapping out tools, right? Because if I have somebody comes in and they're going to stop drinking, well, I better give them a tool, another tool, because otherwise they're going to substitute. So I want to show you some other sort of survival tools, I call them. And this is just a little list. It could be a lot more other things, too. Now, I put caretaking in red because that means is that when you're so busy taking care of other people that you don't have to deal with your own problems. Know anybody like that? You know, it's a way of surviving my problems there. And the trick here is that anything can cross the line. You can take something healthy. Here's the trick. If you're using it to avoid or you're using it to excess. My girlfriend started out with Candy Crush, and it was her healthy stress tool at work, right? But then the next thing you know, she was playing it when she got home, and then she was playing it into the, I mean, honestly, it sucks you in. I was watching it, and it's the game, but it's also the music. I don't know how many people realize that the music that is playing to their Candy Crush is also holding them hostage. And so that for her became to the excess. So now, I want to talk a little bit about hunger. And what I'm going to show you, I actually have on a little teeny little wallet card, because I really want you to be able to carry it with you. And then you can make copies for the refrigerator. But we're not going to stop the hunger. I got some good news and bad news for you. You can't stop stress hunger. All right, we'll talk about that in a minute, but it's wired into our stress response. But you can tell the difference. So, the way that we can tell the difference is this. When it's stress, it comes on suddenly, right? Like, next thing you know, you're starving. But when it's physical, all right, I'm a little hungry. Yeah, I'm getting a little hungry. Notice that feeling, I'm getting a little hungry, as opposed to, where is it? kind of thing. And then the other thing, which is really simple, is think about the neck. That stress hunger is felt above the neck. In other words, you're thinking it, right? Like, oh, I think I want ice cream. You're craving, but it's like up here. Now, yes. Well, the physical, yeah. But the physical, if you think about it, if it's really physical hunger, you're going to feel it in your belly, right? And that's the difference between the two. And actually, this research comes out of Texas Counseling. In fact, if you've ever Googled emotional hunger on Google, you will have seen these things. They're all over the place. I just like to take and simplify stuff. And so this is it boiled down to the simplest. In fact, you'll notice the keys are in red, right? Like, those are the important, really most important things. Then the next one is it has to be a certain food, as opposed to any food will do. So that apple, even though you're angry that you're eating it, it will satisfy if it's physical hunger. But if it's really stress hunger, guess what? It's going to stay there. And because anything will do. And then here's the other trick. Stress hunger wants instant satisfaction, as opposed to more physical hunger, which can wait. I say, okay, let me finish this and I'll go do that. But stress hunger says, no, just get up from your desk, and go. There's a great book I'll tell you about. It's called Mindless Eating by Brian Wansink. He's the guy on Oprah that did all the food research. He's the guy who did the research that says if you go to the movie theater and you get a big bag of popcorn, you're going to eat more popcorn. You eat on a bigger plate, you're going to eat more food. You eat on a smaller plate, you're going to eat less food. Because the brain, it's called mindless eating. Oh, what? It's a great book. It's mindless eating. Yeah, Brian, I don't know how you spell Brian, but Wansink is Wansink. He is a food researcher and runs all these amazing studies, like if you eat chicken wings and you leave the wings on the table as opposed to clearing them off. Leave them on the table, you eat less. Clear them off the table, people eat more. Like, he actually has a restaurant that they do this stuff in the restaurant. Well, the idea is that if you see the chicken wing bones on your table, your brain can say, oh, I've eaten those. But kind of like when it's gone, you don't see it. Yeah, the visual. Yeah. Really great. It's a really great book. I think he has another one, but that's the one I read that I thought was so fascinating. There's one more, though. There's one more. Guilt. And sometimes the other side's no guilt. I joke and I say, this is how you can eat a jelly donut and not feel guilty. Because if you're really hungry and that's the choice that you make, but we feel the guilt when we're not hungry, but it's our brain saying, oh, I think I'll have that donut. Does that make sense? In fact, here, let me give these cards to you so well, hold on, I gotta show you the second part. Sorry, teasing you. So, does this part make sense? Because these are the checklists you can kind of use in your mind to say, okay, you got to practice it being a law. Before you put the food in your mouth, you have to maybe ask yourself this question. Is it fast? Did it come on fast? Does it have to be any food? So you can kind of get the brakes to apply. Then, once you figure out that, and it's from the University of Texas Counseling and Mental Health. That's who kind of did the research on that a gazillion years ago. So here's what you do. Step one is you identify the source. You got to just use that little list to figure out, is it real or is it stress? All right? Then the second thing is to take action. So if it's real hunger, you want to feed it with something healthy. So actually your apple is really good. Which is why you always want to have food around, healthy food that's always available around you. I don't go anywhere without it's a lunch bag, but really it's my pocketbook. Because I have a protein bar in there, I can put an apple, I can put tangerines in there, things that I can put in there so that if I really physically do get hungry, I don't say, oh, I think I'll just stop over here and get this or get that, if that makes sense. Now, here's the secret, though. If it's stress hunger, you got to feel it and you got to release it. You got to let the stress out another way, all right? And that's kind of the second key, quite honestly. Any questions about this so far? If it seems simple, It's because it really, we can make it complicated or simple. Yeah.
Yeah, the fundamental question is, what is stress? How do you get into the stress?
Oh, okay.
I have difficulty defining myself, that am I in a stress or am I not in a stress?
Good question. Well, guess what? Let me tell you a simple definition. Stress is simply your response to any change or situation. Your response. It's your response to a change or situation. So there could be things that stress me out that don't stress you out. But our brains are hardwired to see the change, because that's that mind, that they call it the primitive mind or whatever the heck you call it, but it's just that wired in there that, you know, oh, wait, did the grass move? You know, like, I don't know if you ever read the book, Why Do Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, or something like that. You know, it's because zebras react to the stress and then they let it go. You know, we don't release it. In fact, stress management techniques, companies have spent billions of dollars on it and it hasn't worked. And guess what? Tonight you're going to learn the secret why it doesn't work, all right? So that it will work for you, if that makes sense. So I'll come back. If I don't answer that, you let me know, all right? So there's one thing, though, before I get you to change your tools. Comfort zones, right? Because we get sucked back to them. So what I want to ask you all to do is this little trick. I just want you to take your hands and lace them together. So your thumbs, fingers overlap, thumbs overlap. Now, whatever thumb is on top for you, I want you to reverse your fingers, make it be on the bottom, and hold it. How's it feel? Now keep holding it. Keep holding it. Because I learned this from Jack Canfield, the Mr. Chicken Soup for the Soul Man. This is what happens when we make any change. I don't care if you're trying to leave for work 5 minutes earlier than what you normally do. The first initial reaction is, ooh, that's weird. Let me go back. If I didn't tell you all to hold it, I bet 90% of you would have gone like, ooh, right? So when you try these new tools, notice how it feels now, that you've just been holding it at just a couple seconds. It's kind of gotten a little less weird, right? So when you're using new tools, you just gotta, if they don't work the first time, I have a rule, you gotta try something 6 times. And if it doesn't work after the 6th time, then chuck it, that's not for you, all right? Because not the same thing works for everybody. So that's why I try to give as many tools as possible. But does that make sense? Because your comfort zones are going to pull you back to the old way. And what you got to do is just be aware of that. And even if you catch yourself, say, okay, well, I stopped myself before I ate the whole pint of ice cream, right? Because we aren't going to be perfect. It changed the first time, the second time, the third time. In fact, it's probably going to take us 12 times. Because what happens is, well, I'll tell you what, I'll show you that a little bit later. I actually have it as a slide on my computer. But your awareness improves every time you actually do the behavior. So it gets to the point where you've done it, and now you're aware of the fact before you actually do it. That's called the process of change, if that makes sense. So, and if you do it faster than that, you're lucky. Do you have a question?
Yeah, is there such a thing as being born with stress?
Well, here's the amazing part about it, is research has shown that, and I don't know how I feel about this and harming little rats, but when they've put mothers in stressful situations, the babies that mother had actually were more wired to stress. In fact, there's a really good video, you can just Google stress on YouTube. And it's a cartoon video that kind of shows how it actually can affect even your DNA. That's what makes it so sort of dangerous and damaging. So yeah, it really does, that they're more hypersensitive, the kids are, than to the moms that weren't subjected to those stressful kinds of situations. So yeah, the answer is yeah.